No, the difference with Annex Wealth Management, at the core, Annex Wealth Management is about investment and retirement planning. But once a proper plan is in place, you got a path forward. And then the fun stuff happens, like the joy of being a grandparent. Talk about that as Deanne Phillips, Director of Client Learning and Development, CFP and a CDFA at Annex Wealth Management. Hey, Deanne.
Hey, Danny. So I'm not a grandparent yet.
I know. You definitely aren't. But I tell you, and you know this, grandparenting is just different. It's like being an aunt or an uncle. You can stir them up and give them back, but it's deeper. You might want to bless them in certain ways through a well-crafted financial plan, and that's what we're going to talk about. Deanne, if somebody wants to start out a grandchild on a path to higher education, I'm going to guess the 529 is usually where they start.
Yeah, so grandparent or parent, and that I can relate to. So yeah, these are state-sponsored education savings plans. They're called 529 plans. Each state has them, and they have built-in tax benefits, kind of like a Roth, but for education instead of retirement. So you put in after-tax money, and the earnings grow, and they're pulled out income tax-free if they're used for higher education qualified expenses. And it's fairly liberal what's a qualified expense. The law changed recently. Now you can make withdrawals for elementary through high school as well as college and beyond needs. At that college and beyond level, the funds can be used for tuition, room and board, fees, books, supplies, equipment. And using these funds for qualified expenses, remember, means no income tax is due on the earnings.
Do you find or do you see that it's a lump sum contribution when the baby's born, or do they do it throughout the years, or a mix?
I've seen people do a mix. This is an unusual year where you can actually bundle several years' worth of deductions in a couple state plans and maximize the state income tax credit that you would get when you put into a plan. So that is worth looking into.
Now, this is kind of old school, but have you seen clients open up something as simple as a savings account in a grandchild's name, or is that like that's my old generation?
No, we still see that. However, there are a couple ways to do this. Opening up a savings in your own name, for example, like let's say, and putting away with the purpose of assisting them at a later time for anything, car, house purchase, school. Doing it this way does not tie you to having to give it to the grandchild, however, and when you do, it would be considered a gift. So you would need to stay under the annual gifting limits, or you just file that tax return. The other way to do it, if it's truly in the kiddo's name with the grandparent as the adult overseeing the child's money, you're actually establishing an UTMA, Unified Transfer to Minors, under the Unified Transfer to Minors Act. And remember, a person under majority age can't own their own financial assets outright. So you are kind of the caretaker of that money for them. Now, this money does become theirs at the age of majority if you set up that UTMA, and they can spend it then however they want. So there can be some considerations doing it this route if the grandchild is going to file a FAFSA for educational loans and grants as well. Consult a planner.
Is that 18, age of majority?
It depends on the state.
Got it. I can't imagine an 18-year-old ever squandering money, but that's what the protection is for. How about just plain old financial gifts? Not like in the last year of my dad's life, he gave one of his grandchildren a car that he no longer drove, and the rest of his grandchildren got cash equivalents. Then we're talking about gift tax exclusions, things like that.
Right. So for 2021, the annual gift tax exclusion is $15,000 per donor per recipient. So what that means is anyone can literally gift anyone up to $15,000 in assets a year free of federal gift taxes. Any value above that, and you file the form with your taxes accounting for your gift toward your lifetime exemption, but most likely no tax will be due. That exemption's really high.
Deanne Phillips is Director of Client Learning Development, a CFP and a CDFA at Annex Wealth Management. I remember growing up and knowing trust fund kids. I wasn't one, but I definitely knew trust fund kids. One thing grandparents need to avoid, I think everybody's going to agree on this, is overspending. Mm-hmm. A good thing is great. Too much of a good thing is not.
Yeah, we always say always put the oxygen mask on yourself first. And that means making sure that your retirement dollars are sufficient and your financial plan works well for you before you start aggressively gifting.
When it gets down to it, many are going to suggest that grandparents spend on experiences over things. You take them to the Grand Canyon, you teach them how to fish, you show them how to sail, things like that. That's more important, isn't it?
It really, it is. And this goes back to the individual values of each person. So as a planner, I often hear from grandparents, they want to take their kids to Disney or on a trip for a special birthday. And we build that into the financial plan. you're right, Danny. These are indeed great memories and a terrific way to have what we call a living legacy. So spending some future inheritance while living on these great memories with family.
Sure, so much better. Deanne Phillips, Director of Client Learning and Development at CFP and a CDFA at Annex Wealth Management. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.